Well, hello everyone. I'm here on my new couch, and today's video is going to be a little different, and I'm uploading this on multiple channels. The music channel, the gaming channel, and that's pretty much it, I think. I don't think I'll upload this to the alternate channel. So if you want to support me double, you can go and like both videos and watch both videos if you prefer, or just the one. It doesn't really matter. The point of this video is this device. Now the reason I'm uploading it on both channels is because the music part of this relates to this piece of gear, which I was going to use for using different means of recording music and streaming music stuff this way, but the gaming part of this comes in with the capture card that I recently bought for the PlayStation and my VCR. So the way that this thing works, this is a Roland VR-1HD AV streaming mixer. So this is an audio mixer on this side and a video mixer on this side. And the cool part about this thing is that it's basically everything you would need for streaming audio and video and mixing them together in a very small, light, and very well-built unit. The only thing musically that I have used this for is actually recording the digital out, I guess the analog out, of my record player, because I can use the red and white analog out of that to go into this side port, and with that I'm able to record the audio from the vinyl itself and capture digitally the full fidelity of vinyl sound. So what I'm going to do with this thing is very, very different from that. The way that this guy works with its video thing, as it were, is that it's got these, sorry, the image is kind of mirrored, so I'm going to look at it this way. These three HDMI inputs are that. They're inputs, right? Ignore the THRU thing for right now, because I don't think it matters right now. What I'm more focused about is this guy, the main. This is the main HDMI output. And this is the USB stream, obviously, and the power switch, right? And a USB memory stick. Basically, because the person who gifted this to me, Mr. Troublesome Corsair himself, asked, he wanted to see if there was a way that this could be compatible with the capture card in any way. And I thought, well, that'd be pretty interesting. Now, the way that this guy works, this little AVer Media Live Gamer Mini capture card, is that it only has an HDMI in, out, and it transmits that feed to the computer via USB. I was thinking about it, and the way that this would be compatible with this machine is that the game, so let's just say the PlayStation, would feed directly into HDMI input 1, right here, right? It would feed directly into HDMI 1, and then my camera, which is the camera I'm currently recording with right now because it has HDMI out to HDMI mini, with an HDMI mini cable, right, would go into HDMI input 2. Mix those two together, and then we would port that out through the HDMI main, I believe, into the capture card, and then the out of the capture card goes to the TV, and that feed is transmitted into the laptop. Now, there's a couple issues with this initial idea, and one is that the video mixing itself and the audio mixing, I'm fairly certain, because if I was to take that microphone over there that my PC uses and plug it into this mic input, I have a feeling that that audio will come through the TV alongside the game audio, which might create a feedback loop, which obviously can be nullified if I just use the headphone port on the side here. But if I don't want to wear headphones and I just want to listen through the TV, I don't know how I would rectify that. So then, what would I do instead? Well, I got the manual out, and the manual that tells me all about this Roland device, and hopefully I can figure something out. And I have a feeling that it has something to do with that THRU connector. Now, it just occurred to me that I don't know if the HDMI port on this laptop is input or output, and that would actually affect the decision-making of this whole ordeal. So let me check real quick. Well, never mind. I don't have the box or the instruction manual for the laptop anymore. It was originally my dad's, but then he gave it to me basically because the initial purpose that we had for it turned out not to be a thing anymore. So now I have it, because it's not like he's going to return it after this long. So what do I do? Now I'm fairly certain that the HDMI port of this laptop is out, because the first video I ever did with the capture card, I accidentally moved the feed from the laptop into the TV using the capture card, so that OBS basically showed up on the TV, which was really funny. So it's not an input. The THRU connector. This THRU outputs the video that's being input from the video input 3 connector. Connect this to your display or to a video recording for recording. I am not entirely certain what that means because I have no experience with THRU connections. Now the unique part about all of this is that there's also the USB stream port, which connects to the computer, and all the video audio mixing is directly ported into the computer through that. So in a way, the main HDMI output isn't required. However, this also inputs the audio playback from your computer into the VR-1HD. If you're outputting HD video via USB, connect it to a USB 3.0 port. Well, that's no good because this laptop doesn't have USB 3.0. At least not last I checked. If you connect via an extension cable or a USB hub, the computer might not recognize the VR-1HD. I'll have to test that later, but I don't think it's going to work. Which is why my initial thought is to go with the main HDMI output, which can be connected to a projector, a display, or a video recorder. So, now the really difficult part about all of this is that I basically have nowhere to really go with this, and I'm not entirely sure what to do. So I think at this point I just start mucking around and figuring out what I actually can do with this unit and how I can get it to function. So with all that being said, I think it's time to finally stop talking and actually get to work on this unit. Now these two cables are the ones that are mainly disconnected from the unit at the moment because I still have to figure out how they work. So this is the USB stream cable that came with it. Look at that fancy output shape. Isn't that crazy? And then this, of course, is the HDMI to HDMI mini cable that plugs directly into this camera that I'm using right now. Now I managed to feed the power cable through the little hole here after some embarrassing finesse that I might show on screen for comedic effect. But if I can get the process right, this theoretically could also work with my HDMI to RCA converter, or I guess RCA to HDMI converter, right? In case I wanted to stream Nintendo 64 alongside my camera, right? I would love to have a not cameraless setup. So I'm going to plug power in right now just to have it plugged in, but I'm not going to turn the unit on. And this is where it will sit. And so now I have to figure out what exactly to do. So let's say the PlayStation is right here, right? Currently it's plugged into the input of the capture card. The output of the capture card goes to the TV. If I change that output to move from the Roland instead of the TV, that certainly complicates things. I suppose theoretically though that this Roland is just one big capture card, if it could be, because it's video inputs through HDMI. It's just that it's very cumbersome and not necessarily the same. Now actually, I wonder if I could use it like that. So if I connect the HDMI input to video 1, right? And then I connect the output that goes to the capture card, right? Okay, but the problem is that now the laptop won't pick it up because of its USB transmission kind of being interrupted. But let's just say that I actually plug it in here. I guess I'll just set the laptop down like this, right? Actually, look at the funny lights that turn on when I turn it on, right? That soothes me. Okay, so input 1 is detected, and it says on air, like this, right? I wonder if you guys can even see that. I can't tell. And if I start the PlayStation up, will it actually recognize that it's being fed through? If the TV turns on, then that means that the PlayStation's feed is being picked up by the TV and it will turn on automatically. However, because I'm impatient, I'm just going to turn the TV on right now and see if it turns on or if it reads it. Because it probably won't. Oh my gosh, it does. Does the volume work? And so now all of a sudden, this main volume suddenly becomes the volume control for the TV instead of the actual volume, although both work at the same time. This is headphone volume. USB stream, obviously, even though there's nothing being streamed into the laptop. This, however, presents a very unique position for me. If I can get the laptop to recognize the Roland unit, then theoretically I don't have that much to worry about. My only concern is whether or not the camera will also be put upon the TV, right? What do I do? Now, I hope that the audio feed from this comes through clearly, but I have disconnected my camera from the tripod because, as you can see, I have gotten the PlayStation to work. Hang on, let me just flip this a bit. I've gotten the PlayStation to work on the TV, right? Through this thing. So I've plugged the camera into the Roland via the HDMI, and as you can tell, it knows that it's in input 2. The problem, however, is exactly what I feared, which is the conundrum of feedback. Observe. Now, the reason this is all happening in the first place, right, is that this, basically, right? The microphone of the camera itself is being picked up as the audio source from the HDMI, right? Which causes problems, obviously, because what the heck, right? This also means that if I set the TV to HDMI 2, it picks up the camera. So if I point it at the TV, it does this infinity loop, right? Now if I point it, see, you can tell that that trash bag right there, this one, see? Okay, so you can tell we've got infinity loop, right? So this is really weird seeing myself on the TV this big, and obviously if I boost the volume, it's the PlayStation is now quieter and my volume is louder. The main issue that I have at the moment, you know, I'm going to switch back to the PlayStation. I can't, I'm super distracted by that. The main issue that I have at the moment is that the audio side of this unit only controls the audio that is fed through its audio side and not its video side. Now, what do I mean by that? The HDMI audio cannot be controlled other than the USB stream volume and the main volume, which are both basically master volumes. The only audio that can be actually controlled is the audio that is plugged through mic 1, mic 2, and the analog line, which is that red and white cable. These two are TRS or XLR inputs, and it's got a phantom switch on the side for 48 volt power, like the boost, right, that most podcast mics have. That's pretty much it. You can't control the audio of the video itself. You can only control the video and its layouts. Now, if I set this split up, we've got this. Woo, woo, right? So that's that split thing one. This is why I wanted to try it, because I can just have the camera in a corner, or I can have the camera up there instead. Wait, is that supposed to be detecting input 3 or something? Okay, let's try split. Split 1, you've got this thing. Oh my gosh, imagine trying to play a video game with a cropped screen like that. Then there's split like this, which is the other way, obviously. Ooh, check that out. Okay. And then split 3, which for some reason just does this, and then I'm assuming whatever input 3 would be, HDMI input 3 right here, which obviously doesn't work because nothing is in input 3. So yeah, that's the current conundrum. Alright, so I've reattached the camera to the tripod, and yeah, turns out that that won't work because of mainly the volume issues and the fact that the video would feed through, and there's not, how do I put this, not a lot of control at all over what's going on. Not nearly as much control as I initially predicted there would be. And this is just using the Roland as a capture card itself, right? If I ran this, like assuming that the laptop would pick it up and I actually fed it into the USB stream, the Roland basically acts as its own capture card for the PlayStation by itself. But by itself, it cannot do more than that. It cannot pick up the camera and split the feeds independently from audio and video, because that's not what it's for. So what is it for then? Because it presents itself as a unit that has the capabilities to do that, but in this format it can't, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly I would want to do instead, because I know I can do something with this. I know I can somehow use the Roland as an extender of the capture card. So let me unplug the HDMI output and plug it back into the capture card. Let's put that there. Let me get this HDMI mini cable out of the way. And then let me unplug the HDMI input of the game. And I'm going to put this back down here at the bottom. Now thankfully the PlayStation hasn't figured out that there's nothing actually transmitting yet. Okay, so plugging it back into the capture card, which is still plugged into the computer via USB, the TV turns back on, and the PlayStation now works with the regular TV volume, right? It's no longer controlled by the Roland for its volume sourcing, which is great. The issue is now simply, what on earth do I do for the Roland? How do I use this? And how do I actually get this to function as I want it to, right? And I think the best way to figure that out is to unplug this microphone, and let's open this laptop back up again, kind of cram it in here, and I want to see, humor me for one moment, if the USB stream will actually be picked up by the laptop. It most likely won't, so I'm bracing for disappointment. But I want to see if it does. Because if it does, that would be immensely helpful. Oh. Well, it knows that something is there. Does it know what? Where's the audio settings here? Select a sound output. Speakers, VR-1HD audio. Wow! Okay, so if I open OBS here, mic aux, advanced audio property, okay, not advanced audio properties, but I don't need desktop audio too, that's stupid. Let's see here. Let's say my mic aux is the VR-1HD audio. So, this might work. First of all, let me make sure that there's a video feed that can actually get into OBS at all, which unfortunately means that I have to disable DCHP. My main thing that I wanted to do with the Roland was to see if I could use it as an HDMI splitter to get it to, well, effectively bypass HDCP, which doesn't seem like it'll work. So, regretfully, I have to roll with this function for the time being. Copyright protected content. Okay. So I'm going to disable HDCP now that it knows that it's actually there, because for some reason it didn't earlier. And it should... Okay, great. It is working. The feed is now being received into OBS. So now that it recognizes the VR-1HD as an actual audio device, I have to now grab my professional microphone. Now the weird part about this whole thing is that based on the way this audio setup works is that for some reason I'm using a podcast mic for my microphone for gaming, and it's like, why on earth would you do that? And the simple answer is that the Blue Yeti Nano does not have an equivalent audio quality. And as I was told on my test stream by Adventure Karma, I didn't have great audio quality at all through the microphone because it just sounded like I was inside the car that I was racing in the game, which obviously isn't the case. Man, I had tightened this way too much. Golly. Alright, how do I want to set this up? I guess I have to set this up here on the top shelf. So now I have a microphone just protruding out of the top of the thing, and with this XLR cable I can just plug it into mic number 1. Alright, so we have a signal. It is telling me that there is a signal at least, which is good. I'm going to stack the rest of the slack cable up here. So now, if I boost the volume and raise the main volume, the only issue now is that USB stream isn't working. Why not? Hey! Hey! Oh, hi! There we go. Okay. If I max out the input, it detects my audio now. And no hiss? Truly interesting. Now, the only problem is figuring out how in the world the camera will function alongside the microphone. I think it should be fine because the last time I used this Roland, I used it to pan between two cameras that I have. This one and the other one that have HDMI mini. And when it detected that there was a microphone plugged into it, it overrode that audio, the audio from the microphones, and solely focused on the audio that was plugged into its own system. So if I'm right, this should just work. I guess we'll have to see. So I just realized that the reason why... Okay, before I say anything, I guess it would be prudent to note that I plugged the camera in through HDMI mini to input 1, and that audio is overriding the microphone, like to the degree that it's louder than the microphone, so I muted this microphone. And the reason why it's doing that is because the microphone on this camera is still on. I have to actually go into the camera and mute the microphone, which I thought was stupid until I remembered that the last time I tried this, I had not yet figured out how to turn the microphone for this camera on, because turning on the audio for this camera was actually very recent. It was a recent discovery of mine about the camera, was that it was initially muted. So this seems like a duh kind of thing, but I just didn't know. So now I'm going to mute the camera audio and only channel the microphone. And honestly, now that I think about it, that was probably the only reason why the TV connection and the feedback loop was happening in the first place, was because the camera's microphone was turned on. It probably was just that, straight up. If I had left it alone, I probably could have just watched myself in the corner of the TV and just recorded or streamed like that, which would have been gimmicky and funny, but also I want my screen to not have a thing on it that's me, that I can't move around, right? So, okay, so the reason I didn't record any of this is because I just needed to think quietly, and it turns out that it didn't work. And the reason why it didn't work is because to output video from the VR-1HD into the computer directly, it needs to be a 3.0 USB connection, and this computer does not have 3.0, and I thought I could just ignore that, and without a 3.0 connection it will only export the audio from the microphone, but not the video of the camera, because there's not enough like transfer speed or something like that. I don't know, but the computer recognizes the VR-1HD as an audio device only, and it recognizes that it has video capability, but it blacks out whenever it tries to pull up its feed. So basically, when I pulled it up in both the Windows Camera app itself and the OBS program, it showed it as a selectable option. I could select it and it didn't do anything, and that's the thing, it didn't do anything. It was black. There was nothing there. So that's an experiment. Kind of failed. And it totally could have been circumvented if the laptop had 3.0 USB, which sucks, because that's literally the only limitation. If it had that, this would be done. So I think that the only way to get everything that I want is to use the capture card as the camera feed. So I plug the camera into the capture card. Wait, but that means I can't output it to the computer. Oh, well, actually, I could, theoretically, because I only need to have the input into the capture card and the USB into the computer, and that's all it needs to transmit the feed, and there's no need for the output of the capture card at that point. And then I can just route the PlayStation through the VR-1HD, and the HDMI output can go into the TV. The only issue is then capturing the game into the computer, which is impossible because of the USB 3.0 limitation. And I would try to do this with my PC, but I can't, because it's a failing PC, really. I'm a little upset because this didn't work the way I thought it would, and it's literally only because USB 3.0 just doesn't... There's no USB 3 ports on this laptop, there's only 2 HDMI ports, and neither of them have that compatibility, which stinks. It sucks. There's a USB-C port, but A, that's only for charging, supercharging, I'm pretty sure, and B, there's no USB-C thing on this unit. The only USB input on this device is a memory stick USB, which, if I read the manual right, means that connect a USB flash drive here. You can use it when loading a WAV file, background music or sound effects, or a still image, which I guess then would be ported into what the audio effects are, which is like soundboard of sorts, I guess. I don't even know if it's a soundboard at that point, but I'm assuming that could be controlled through the monitor HDMI input, which is basically connecting the monitor output actually to a different monitor, like a TV or a monitor of some kind, and that gives you access to the menu of the actual unit itself, and you can control the menu that way. And the menu contains, from the looks of it, not that much, just video input, video output, scene, transition key, auto switching, on air. So really it's just, it appears to be a more analog version of the main face of the unit itself. Analog, digital, sorry, the analog is actually the tangible object. Well, so I guess this didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And it's a shame that it couldn't work out the way it really should have, but I guess it really is what it is at the end of the day. But I am pretty bummed by it, because I really thought I had something going here. I thought I was being pretty clever. I had all my cables ready, I had a plan, I was doing really well. But yeah, there's no way to capture the camera to the computer and get the game in the computer at the same time, it seems. Because the capture card is being used for the game itself, which takes up one USB port. The other USB port would need to have the compatibility for another capturing device for the camera, which in this case would be the Roland. And the Roland is just too powerful for this ridiculous little Asus VivoBook Go 1415. Because it just doesn't have the USB ports I require. However, the Roland still works as an audio device, and the microphone can be picked up. So at the very least, I have theoretically clearer audio. I never actually tested that, actually. Let me try that. So now what happens when I take this, the video capture device is running. What happens if I boost the volume of the TV? So I brought my headphones over to listen in case that there would be any feedback from the microphone. I could just listen to it through here because there's no speakers. So I can hear my voice through the microphone. Seems all well and dandy. And if I raise the volume of the TV, woo! There is undoubtedly a delay of about a millisecond or two, maybe like 200 milliseconds maybe. So the microphone definitely picks up the PlayStation audio, obviously, because it's coming through the TV speaker into its microphone. There's no like buzzing or feedback of any kind, but it's there, so the game audio would always be would have this slight like slapback delay sound to it, which sucks. And I know that the plan wasn't like perfect or anything, but it was something. Because at the very least I can have the TV on low volume, and maybe that microphone, if I like pull it out far enough, can just not detect it. So I don't know, but anyways, I guess it was just not meant to be this time, which is a shame, because I was really looking forward to the this whole shenanigan, because I could set up a camera and it could be all like cool and stuff. Turns out that's not gonna happen. I guess it is what it is, but now I guess I have to turn the TV off, because I guess I gotta go to bed with this failure of an experiment. Literally the only thing holding this whole thing back is the fact that the laptop doesn't have USB 3.0 connections, because if it did, this would be like a success. So yeah, I guess that wraps it up. It is what it is, but it does indeed suck. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, even though it didn't work out very well. I'll still do my best to stream something. Might just plug in the Blue Yeti Nano back in for simplicity's sake, even though the audio quality is worse. I don't know. I'll figure out a time when I can do a test stream of that function somehow, some way. But in the meantime, I guess that's it. That's pretty much all I have to do or talk about or anything like that. So I hope you guys had fun watching this. Please consider liking the video and subscribing. It would help me out a lot, considering the unfortunate nature of this experiment. And I will see you guys all later. And let me know what you guys think, if there is a solution to any of this. If there's a way to route all the HDMI cables that I just haven't thought of, that would be greatly appreciated. And to the uncle that sent me this Roland device and asked me to make this, if you're watching this, I'm sorry that it didn't work in this video. I thought I had something going, I thought I was being clever, and it turns out that I was a bit too clever for the compatibility of this machine. So I am sorry. I hope that there is something else that I can do to get this to work the way it should, because there's no reason it should behave this way. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. I gotta go to bed. So I will see you guys all later. Goodbye. And just as one final test, the Roland routed the first way I did it, where the output of the Roland goes into the TV. PlayStation's plugged into the Roland, right? And the capture card is being used for the camera right here. It's being run through OBS right now. Now, OBS picked up the camera after about a minute or two of actually figuring out what the heck it was. And of course, we still run into the issue of actually capturing what's being transmitted on the TV. And when we go to VR-1HD, there's nothing. It recognizes that it's there, but it cannot pick up its feed because there's not enough power. So, tough luck for me. I Guess I'll have to find another way to get the camera and the gaming in at the same time. Which admittedly should not be this hard.